What do the 2017 Oscars have to do with the doors at St. Philip the Deacon? Stay tuned to find out. Hello, friends. Good to be with you. Thank you for taking a little time to be with me today. In the last episode, I mentioned how it's kind of interesting where ideas for these episodes come from. In the last episode, we talked about everything from the invention of cement to a 20th century architect and how that connected to name changes in the Bible. Today, I was prompted to think about this topic because of a podcast I recently listened to that has to do with how things can go terribly, terribly wrong. And the focus of this particular episode of that podcast was something you may remember. It was the 2017 Oscars, and it was the culmination of the Oscars, the last award, I believe, that's presented, which is the Best Picture Award. If you know what I'm talking about, you may remember that Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway presented it, and they got up to the podium. Warren Beatty actually opened the envelope, paused a bit. If you watch the video, you'll see a little bit of confusion, and then it's actually Faye Dunaway who announces La La Land is this year's Best Picture winner, which turns out was wrong. It was a mistake. And it turns out they had the wrong card. There were a number of things that went wrong. The real winner, by the way, for the record, was Moonlight. But the confusion was caused by bad typography. That's something that interests me, actually. I'm kind of a nerd about graphic design and typography. And that did have something to do with what went wrong. But there was also operator error, and there was sort of a systemic issue. They had two cards for each and every award, and one of the accountants had forgotten to throw away the card that had just been awarded, and so they gave Warren Beatty the card that was wrong. Anyway, it was a big old mess. And it just got me thinking about clarity of message, I guess is what I will call it, as opposed to confusion of message. And that got me thinking about a change that we've made recently to our doors here at our church building. Those changes are connected to our strategic plan. One of the anchors of our strategic plan is to have a welcoming front door. Front door is actually in quotes very intentionally, because the intent there is that we are welcoming in all ways, certainly to our physical plant, but also through our online presence. So our website, our social media platforms, and so forth. But the change we've made recently is actually to our literal front doors, and we put some new graphics on them, which was sort of the connection to the error in graphic design at the 2017 Oscars. And of course, we were very intentional about thinking about, well, what are we putting on these doors? And so there's some basic information about the church. There's a quote that appears in our atrium. All are to be welcomed as Christ, for he himself will say, I was a stranger and you welcomed me. So there's a strong emphasis on welcoming there, again, connected to our strategic plan. There's a quote that I say pretty much every Sunday when I welcome people to worship, which is, we've been expecting you. But the headline, the thing that takes the top billing in terms of the hierarchy of those graphics, which was the problem, or one of the problems with that Oscar card, is two simple words: welcome home. And we do pray that it won't be too long before we're welcoming people home after the pandemic in some limited ways. But even after that, those words strike me as being appropriate and meaningful for all time as we welcome people here. Why? Well, of course, there's that strong note of welcome, first of all, but there's also that language of home. What does that mean? Well, it means, among other things, that this is a place where we learn who we are. We learn where we come from. We learn where we're going. We learn what God is expecting of us as we make that journey. And very importantly, the language of home reminds us that we do not make that journey alone. We are part of a community. We are part of a family who shares our joys and our sorrows with one another, and again, helps to remind us of who we are. I just wanted to point out that change. Next time you're here, take a look at those doors And maybe, very importantly, if there's someone else you think needs to be welcomed home, would you invite them here sometime? Thanks as always for being with me. Stay in touch, be well, and God bless.